What is up, guys? Welcome back to Liftaholics TV. Today I'm going to show you guys how to work in those rear delts. Get more rounder shoulders, get those bolder shoulders, get those shoulders filling in your t-shirts more in the back end of it. Stay tuned, you don't want to miss this. Now, when you're hitting your rear delt, you always need to remember that your rear delt is just a small portion of your shoulder. It's just the back end of your shoulder right on in here. That's it. This is a very, very small piece. So you don't need to use a big load to hit it. You just need to make sure that you have good proper form, and that all starts with your setup. If my setup is off, then I'm not gonna be able to hit my rear delt properly. So I'm gonna take you through my favorite exercises to hit your rear delt and help develop it more. Now, always remember, when you're doing exercises like military press, you're doing an Arnold press, you're doing any type of pressing motion with your shoulder, all three heads of your shoulders are working while you're doing it. So you don't need to go crazy and do a whole rear delt day. That's not necessary. You just need to throw in these exercises at the end of your shoulder day, the end of your back day, the end of your pull day, wherever you find fitting. One of my favorite exercises to hit my rear delt is the rear delt fly. So there's two different ways you can do this depending on your level of fitness. If you're someone who has perfected that RDL stance, which is bending over, keeping a straight back, hinging at the hips, slight bend at the knees, then this is a perfect exercise for you to use to focus in and develop your rear delt. Now, if you're not somebody who has developed this stance or this posture, this position yet, I'm gonna give you an alternative exercise after we give you the regular one. So just take a couple of, so like I say, you don't need that much of weight. So I'm poking my butt out, I'm moving down slow. I got a nice little bend in my knees. I also have a straight, nice position back. So I'm bent all the way over, almost like I'm about to do a barbell row, or like I'm about to come up in an RDL. So when I'm here, I wanna make sure that I'm not pushing it back. That's not necessary. I wanna make sure that my elbows are not in a locked in position like this, but they're almost out just with a little slight bend in them. And when I come up, I'm pulling just right onto the side. Good tempo, I'll get a nice pause at the top, slow down to the gravity, moving slow down. Now, if you're a beginner or someone who struggles with getting in this RDL-like stance, you can always pull up a bench, put it on an incline level, and make sure that your chest is right on the top of that pad. And then you can mimic that same movement with the side raise. So basically, this elevation is gonna put you somewhere around that same RDL-like stance that we were without the bench. And that's gonna help you hit that rear delt as well, as long as you're keeping the same cues. So you still gotta squeeze at the top, and you still gotta have a good connection of where you're pulling the weight from and where you're lowering it at. Making sure you fight gravity going down. It's really important when you're trying to work the rear delt, especially with the dumbbells, that you don't let the dumbbells control the movement. You don't let gravity control the movement. You gotta make sure that you keep the focus in and you really focus in on that set if you're not used to moving that rear delt. All right, exercise number 2. This is one of my favorites to use for a rear delt, cross cable rear delt fly. So for this one, it is very imperative. It's really easy to turn this into a tricep exercise. So we gotta make sure we're using the right cues when we're doing this, and we got a stable elbow position the whole way through. Because if we don't, we're gonna start doing some type of variation of a tricep cross cable kickback thingy that's not effective for our triceps, and we're not hitting our rear delt, so we're pretty much just wasting our entire time. So you have to make sure that you got a stable elbow position, but you also need to make sure that you got the right weight. If I'm using too much weight, then I'm obviously gonna start bending my elbows because I'm trying to force and pull and yank back. We don't wanna do that. We just wanna use a nice light weight where we can come back, get a nice 3 count, and then we can come all the way back and squeeze at the back end. It's really important that when we're trying to work on our rear delt, we're using a light weight. Like I said before, it doesn't take a heavier load, it doesn't take a lot, it doesn't even take that many exercises or sets to really exhaust that muscle group. All right, the third and final exercise to use to help develop and grow your rear delt. Now, I put the first 2 at the top because those are my 2 personal favorite rear delts. I feel like I've seen the best and most results using those 2 exercises. This third one is a great alternative to the other ones, but you're also not working the rear delt in an isolation movement, which is perfectly fine. As long as you're doing this exercise with the right cues, you still should be able to get a benefit from it. But the first 2 exercises I have seen the most results from, but this is also a great alternative to use both hands. I feel like to grow any specific muscle group, a good combination of using a compound movement while using isolation movements are always a good move. So the last exercise we're gonna go over is the face pull. The face pull is a little bit different than the cross cable rear delt fly, also than the bent over rear delt fly. because in this one, you are working a little bit of trap muscles in there, but as long as you're able to have a good mind muscle connection, you should be able to feel something in your rear delts. And with this movement, you can also use a little bit of a heavier load because you're pulling from this position right here, right into your face. So let's make sure that we're breaking it down properly. Let's make sure that we're getting effective reps, and let's make sure we're not wasting our time when we're doing this movement. Once again, on this exercise, your elbow position is imperative in order to make a good rep. So if we have our elbows too low or too high, we're gonna completely miss that rear delt muscle. So in order to keep the tension on our rear delt, we gotta make sure that our elbow position is in line kind of right with our head. We don't have it lower, we don't have it higher. We're not doing something funny with one higher than the other or something crazy like that. We wanna make sure that we got even elbows right around the head level. We also wanna make sure that we're pulling straight into our face. That's gonna help us keep that tension on the rear delt as well. Also, biggest thing, once again, if we're momentum swinging it, then we're not gonna get anything out of the movement. Then we're just gonna be yanking and pulling, doing body swings. When we're working the rear delt, we don't really have to use that much weight. Now in this exercise, because we're using both hands, we should be able to pull a little bit of a heavier load, but I'm not putting a stack on the highest number or anything like that. I'm just putting it on a nice moderate weight so I can still squeeze it at the back once the rope is close towards our face, and using the 3-second count moving back forward. Keep that tension on the rear delt as much as we can. Now you're gonna feel your traps working a little bit because they are gonna be involved in this exercise, which is why I put it number 3 and why it's not number 1 or 2. But you can still get an effective rep and still get a good rear delt pump or get some good rear delt work with using the face pull. All right, guys, that is it for my top 3 exercises to help develop and grow your rear delt. Hope you're able to take something out of this video and use it to your next shoulder day, your next pull day. If you hit rear delts on the end of your back day, I hope you're able to take something and add this in. Remember, you don't need a lot of weight. You don't need to excessively do 20, 25 sets for rear delts. Just need to make sure you're hitting them effectively. You just need to make sure you're hitting them with good form, good tempo, and I guarantee you that you should start to see some development in your rear delt if you're able to take some of these principles from these videos and add it to your next lift. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, make sure you leave a comment in the comment section. Also, don't get out of here without hitting that subscribe button. See you guys next time.